Hey, No Bunk fam. Hope you're having a great day. I'm sitting here with MJ. Now, you might think it's Michael Jordan because you see all the trophies in the background, but this is Coach MJ, and she wrote a fantastic book about a year ago called When Girls Win, and we're here to have her tell you about it. Coach MJ, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, JJ. Excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you because I'm a sports psychologist and I love talking about mental toughness, and you wrote a book about it. So tell me about the decision to write the book. What led you to write it?
Yeah, it was during COVID and I listened to this podcast. I love podcasts. I love your podcast. And I listened to this podcast. Matthew McConaughey was on it. And he was saying, this horrible time, terrible tragedy. But at some point, we're going to get out of this. And he said, what are you going to just hit Netflix and next episode over and over? Or are you going to do something? And I just thought, what am I doing? What am I going to do? And that's when he talked about everyone has a story and everyone has a story to tell. And I thought, I've been coaching for over 20 years. And for the first 10 of it, I was the only female coach in our conference. And so that's when I thought, I have a story. I have to tell all that I've learned because I've learned a lot. And that's when I started, going to town and thinking mental toughness. Everyone's talking mental toughness, but are they doing it? Are they practicing it? And I was like, our team is. And that's what's separating us from other teams. We're this little school in a small town in Oregon. And I thought we're making a difference out there and we have proof now. And so that's kind of how it all came about.
And you mentioned small team in Oregon. A lot of people think D3, it's not
Yeah.
high achieving athletes, but being a D3 athlete myself, I know that there are a lot of great people there that choose to play sports and go to college at the same time. What drove you to become a coach, not only in the collegiate level, but really take on the challenge of working in D3 athletics where there's not NIL money? There may
Right.
not be the amount of facilities that you'd have at a big Division I school, but there are still young athletes who are trying to pursue greatness.
Exactly. I think it's just a passion. I love kind of rooting for the underdog. Not that D3 should be underdogs, but I think they're sometimes classified as kind of underdogs when they're doing amazing things. And I mean, I've had two players win qualifiers against D1, primarily D1 fields, and go on to play in the U.S. Women's AM. And I have a player right now that's in medical school going on to be a doctor, who was a fantastic player on our team. So it's like, it's just choices that we make. And I think sometimes a D3 school, a smaller school, fits some individuals better than others. And so they're playing because they're passionate. Like, it's not just for the money. And so I guess I just love that about it.
Yeah, it's great. And then when you think about that passion, the passion needs to meld with toughness. So how do we take an athlete who's passionate about their sport, passionate about golf, but also get them to invest in the mental aspect of it, the resilient part of it?
Right. It takes time, but I think, with all the stories, and I have a lot of stories and even stories about myself where I limited myself because I didn't understand mental toughness when I was younger and when I was in high school, when I was in college. And I know I could have done a lot better than, I mean, I was a good player, but I could have been so much better. And it was my mind that really kept me from, even like with putting, it just kept me from being great at it because everyone, like my brother would say, oh, my sister's pretty good, but she's terrible at putting. And then I would believe it because I didn't know any better. And then I practiced really hard, but then I would make a mistake. And then it would be like, okay, that's it. He's right. I'm not good at putting. I just learned how to get through that resistance and to get to the other side of it.
And what did that turning point do for you in terms of not only your game, but just your overall emotional health and well-being?
Oh my gosh. I mean, there's just so much to that. But I would just say it's really helped me just, I don't know, just like understand that it gets in the way. And I think, it's helped me. My husband had surgery this past summer. It even helped me get through that. Like instead of just breaking down and being all emotional, I just chose gratitude the whole time. And I said, I'm so grateful that, my husband has great doctors and he has people helping him. And that gratefulness vibe is so powerful. And I'm just a huge believer now then that you can switch it around and that we're way stronger than we think we are. So it's helped me in that way battle through a lot of different challenges.
Totally. Totally. Now,
Yeah.
gratitude is something that's hard to find on a golf course. So how do you encourage your players to find gratitude and really be present, be in the moment while they're competing literally for their lives? Because obviously we can look at the back shelf. There is a standard at your school and at your college and on the team, but being able for them to appreciate even the bad shots that they hit.
Yeah, I mean, it takes time, and we actually work on mental toughness every week. So we work on getting to that place. We work on our process goals. Process goals are thrown around a lot, but we do truly work on staying with our process goals while we play. So one process goal might be gratefulness. Like, I am going to stay grateful this whole time, and I'm going to judge myself on that and not on how well I hit the shot. Now, that's really easy to say, much harder to do, especially when you hit a bad shot. But just like having that commitment to those process goals is huge.
That's awesome. It's beautiful to think about commitment too as a way of getting gratitude and bringing gratitude to the situation. One of the things that we talk about with athletes a lot is this idea of self-discipline being the highest form of love for yourself, because you are being disciplined and allowing that future self, future version of yourself be born through hard work, saying no to things, saying yes to things. So when you get a freshman who comes in and wants to play on your team, how do you think about the transformational journey that they're going to go on from freshman year all the way to senior year when they graduate?
Wow, that's a good question. It really does start with discipline. And I make it really clear from the start that, we have these rules and we have these values, and we definitely go through that at the very beginning. And I think it's the structure and the culture that is what has helped us be so successful, because it really started in the very beginning. And I was really fortunate when I started the program at George Fox back in 2006. I had two basketball players that were in our national championship basketball program that wanted to be on the team. And they were great, but they weren't the best golfers, great basketball players. But they really brought that, this is what we do to be champions, philosophy to the team. So I think it's just really structuring that discipline from the very beginning.
And you bring
Yeah.
up champions. How do you maintain such a high expectation without creating this undue pressure on yourself, on your athletes, and also on the people who support the athletes too?
Right. I think that's, again, the culture. And we have such a great team bond, and everyone cares about each other. And I know that sounds like kumbaya like, but it's just an amazing culture of young women that really do really care about each other. And golf is hard because, it's really an individual sport, and then we come together as a team. And unlike, say, basketball, like, we'll travel to an event and not everyone gets to go. Like, some are staying home, and that's really hard. But, I think that they care about each other so much, and we do have a philosophy that we're all getting better, and you are all responsible for pushing each other. And whoever the top five end up being at the end, like, you should feel good about the role you played. So, it's more of like just really having a strong bond as a team, and also having good leadership on the team. I mean, leadership is a huge part of it. So I've been really lucky to have really good leaders from the beginning. It's helped a lot. I've had amazing, amazing student athletes on my team.
Yeah, no, it's like you put people in positions to not only be successful, but to have ownership over the victories and over their achievements and also over their failures too. Accountability is a great way to teach people like, hey, I want to be better. I want to be motivated to be better. And the poor result that I had at our last event is going to fuel the practice habits that I'm going to have leading into this future
Right.
event.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, no, that's exactly it. That's exactly what we do. And, failure is part of it. Failure is going to happen. And you know what else? I think here's the biggest thing that led to our national championship in 2023. I can't give you all our secrets today, AJ, because we're trying to win another one this year. But I will tell you, we went in letting go of perfection. And I think that perfection, I deal with a lot of student athletes that want to be perfect in school. They want to be perfect on the golf course. They're trying to be perfect all the time, right? But perfection gets in the way of excellence. And it's really persistence and process over perfection. And so I said, we're not going to go into this championship being perfect. Like, let go of perfect. Mistakes are going to happen on the golf course, just like they do in life. And so if you can kind of just let that go and just march on to the next thing. And I really do think we had a lot of controversy at that championship. I don't know if you heard much about it in 2023. Big controversy was like all over social media. What happened was, for the third round, there was a hole placement that was put in sort of an illegal spot because the slope was ridiculous. And if you putted up to it,
Oh, I did see that.
Yeah, you putted up to it and it didn't go in the hole. It was going all the way off the green and down the hill. Like, it was really bad. And they just made a huge mistake on that pin placement. And so there was so much controversy over it. And we finished. In fact, 60% of the field had finished. And then there were thunderstorms later in the afternoon. So they had to cancel play. And so then the NCAA had to decide what to do because, there were so many of us that had finished, but others still had to go back out and finish. And they decided to just, because of that pin placement, just to cancel that whole round. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, I found out on my computer at like 8 p.m. that night that round was wiped out and it was gone. And it would have been on GolfStat too. And one of our players actually had moved from 10th to going into the lead for the final round. And that all got erased. And I really worried about her more than anything because we still had the lead after the third round, but we had the lead after the second round. So, but I felt bad for the individuals. I felt bad for teams that were on the cut line that had played really well that day, and now they're gone. It was just a really interesting call that the NCAA made. And I was so proud of my team because I was the one that was like, oh my God, this is the worst thing. But my team was like, when I went up to tell them and I knocked on their door, they said, we know. And I go, you guys know? And they already knew. They knew from social media. They already had it figured out. And they go, we got this. We're going to do this. We don't care. We've got this. And even our player who would have had the lead, or she either would have had the lead or would have been in second going into the final round, she said, let's go team. We're going to do this. And just rallied, and our team just rallied. And so we overcame that adversity in such a cool way that I felt like, wow, this was powerful. And it really did show me that their mental toughness that they had trained for really paid off in the end. And we were really strong the next day and got it done. So that was pretty cool.
No, it's a beautiful story, and it speaks to the transformational power of sports, but also togetherness, shared goals, team goals, individual performances, and things of that nature. I would love to kind of know why somebody so busy will decide to make their life even busier by writing a book, and what you hope people get out of the book when they read it and have the opportunity to enjoy it.
Thank you. I feel like I've worked so hard. And I feel like if only someone had told me this when I was younger about mental toughness and how we get in our own way so much and we tell ourselves the wrong things. And I just felt like it was important for the world, and especially coming from a female, because I think that there's a lot of, males out there that are telling the stories, but the women aren't telling the stories. And I was always battling against being the minority and the female and all the males making these decisions, not really listening to what I had to say or whatever. I just wanted to prove to young girls, go for it and go after your dreams and don't let anyone tell you you can't do it. Because actually, when I was first hired, I was told basically you can't win a national championship. And why are you trying to be at the championship level, especially being in the Northwest area where it rains here a lot, and it does. And how are you going to do it in golf, And you're up against schools in Texas and you're up against schools in Southern California. Those were the schools in our region. So I was basically told we're never going to be able to battle through that. So, but we did. And so, yeah. And what's crazy, JJ, is I actually finished the book before the national championship. I actually was done in 2023 and it was going to be published that summer. And then we won the national championship and I have a chapter to add. So then I added that chapter, but the book isn't all about winning the national championship. It's about getting through the obstacles. It's about getting stronger. It's about just little tips that I learned along the way. And every chapter has like thread throughout it, like the mental toughness tip that I learned. And then at the end, there's like a little thing about, what we win is what we learn as women too. And I have that at the bottom of each chapter. But I do have a lot of men that said they've learned from my book. So it's not for girls only. Like, really close friend of mine told me that his handicap has dropped to like 3 strokes since reading my book. So that made me feel good. And he had his first eagle too. And he's playing a lot more positively than he was before, and it's helping him immensely. So it's not just for girls only, but I do really have a passion of helping young women reach their potential.
Oh, I love it. It's a love letter to the female athlete. Like, we
Basically.
see you, we appreciate you, we honor your struggles, we also honor your triumphs in terms of national championships, and for the female athletes who don't win national championships, but still
Right.
show up every day to practice with a great attitude, with great effort, and with goals
Right.
that they want to accomplish.
Exactly. That's it. Exactly. And I really do believe that, social media has had an impact, I think, especially on young women. And I think that you see all these cool things that other people are doing, or how beautiful this girl looks, or whatever. And you see all these things. And, I even had a player tell me I have to go to a different school because I'm not having enough fun here. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And oh, you should see what my friend's doing on her Instagram account. She's doing all these fun things. And I said, you don't have to believe all that. And anyway, I'm super happy because she ended up staying, and she's the one I mentioned earlier that's in medical school and learned so much through playing the game of golf, and so much about mental toughness, and just seeing her belief in herself rise has been one of the coolest things ever as a coach. That's what I love. I love helping bring that belief out in people, and that greatness out, because everyone has greatness inside of them too. So maybe it's not winning a championship, because we hadn't even won the championship when I was going to publish the book. So but it's about not quitting and not giving up, and just going as far as you can, and realizing that you do have gifts to give the world, and sharing those with others.
And hearing you talk just reminds me just how much of a girl's experience is that not giving up. There's a lot of that conversation earlier on, the gender roles, the expectations. And if you don't believe in those, you may, but if a person doesn't, then you really do have to buck a lot of trends to be able to pave a road for yourself that other people may feel like you're not capable of doing, or you haven't seen a lot of females do. Because again, you have national championship, you have the number one golfer in D3 at your school right now. Like, she can play golf, but I'm sure when she goes to a golf course and she's taking her bag out the car, everybody there who is not of the belief of inclusivity and diversity assumes that she's never played golf before,
Right.
until she makes her first hit off the first tee. And then everybody has this realization and this shock and this awe, as opposed to just allowing her to be whomever she wants to be on the golf course and enjoying her for that.
Exactly. Yeah, I love that. That's so true.
So I also heard in our pre-conversation that you're thinking about writing a second book. Now, we have this first book. What will the second book touch on?
Well, I think I hadn't planned on doing a second book, but this first book has been doing really well. And I just feel that there's 2 reasons. One, this friend of mine said, your book is all about winning. It's just winning. Like, does it have to be about winning? And I said, oh my gosh, I didn't want to give that impression that it's just about winning. It's not just about trophies, and that there's more to it, to bringing out your greatness, to be gritty, and go after something. And even if you finish last, you showed up, and I think there's something to just showing up. And so it's more that sort of going down that philosophy, because this year we didn't win the national championship, but in fact, we were trying to repeat. I thought we were so ready, and we just came out of the gate weak. And I think we were in 10th after the first round. And then we were in 9th after the first round. We were in 10th after the second round. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I could just see the defeat on my team's face. And I could see that they were just like, this isn't what we planned. Why are we not doing well? And then there was a little break between the weather, and so we had about an hour, and so we went to Chick-fil-A. Not that I promote them, but that is a good place to escape to try to figure things out. And I remember seeing on the wall this picture of, they have horses everywhere. We were in Kentucky for the national championship, so horses everywhere. And so I said to the team, do you guys know who Mystic Dan is? And they said, no. And I said, well, Mystic Dan just won the Kentucky Derby, you guys. And they go, and they actually said, it was kind of funny, is Mystic Dan the rider or the horse? That was kind of funny. But anyway, I said, it's the horse. But I said, nobody was mentioning Mystic Dan halfway through the race. Like, I always watch the Kentucky Derby, usually tape it and watch it. I just like to watch it. But I remember thinking, never even heard of him. They weren't even talking about him. They were talking about all the favorites. And I said, Mystic Dan didn't care. Mystic Dan was like, I'm just heading for the finish line. Like, I don't care what the rest of you are doing, but my goal is to get to the finish line the best I can. So I said, we have to take that approach. So this new book is more about getting to the finish line the best you can, like putting yourself out there. And in the end, they just embraced it all. And they just said, okay, we're going to do that. And so the third round, we moved from 10th to 9th. We barely moved because we were so far behind. So even though our score, I think, was the third best score that day, we barely moved because that's, again, we were so far behind. But they said, we got this in the final round. We're going for it. And the magic just happened, and they were ready for the magic and the birdies were flying. And it was really one of the most exciting things, just as exciting as winning the national championship, to see our team just, battle through that defeat, that horrible defeat that they felt. And they moved from 9th to 4th and actually set an NCAA record, one-day single record for that final round, shooting 1 under par as a team. And my player that was behind as an individual going to the final round, I think she was either in 3rd or 4th, she won and became the national champion. And anyway, so it's just really exciting. So that's the long story of kind of what this new book is going to be about. Like, push yourself through those hard times. And even if you don't get the big trophy at the end, it's so rewarding. Like, I mean, I could start crying right now because it felt every bit as good as winning the national championship. It was so cool. And just to see them overcome that adversity that they felt and just those low feelings and that defeat, it's so cool to get pushed through that.
Well, I can tell even in the short time we spent together that you love your players. You are a dedicated coach, and any golfer who has the opportunity to be one of your players is truly blessed and fortunate to have you as the steward of the team. And obviously the results speak for themselves as I point camera to yours. But can you put up the book again just so we can show everybody?
Yeah.
When Girls Win by Coach MJ. Now, Coach MJ's friend said it took 3 strokes off his game. We do not make any promises. The legal department says we can't make any promises that it will take 3 strokes off your golf game. But
an eagle.
So you never know. It's possible. So you take this book and the future book, that could be 6 strokes off your game right there. That's pretty great. But we're so happy to have Coach MJ join us on the podcast and be part of the No Bunk fam. And we encourage all of you to go out and get her book, support her, and also stay on Instagram. Check out the team, see what they're doing. D3 Athletics are an amazing part of the NCAA, and we're here to support them and all the other collegiate golfers out there grinding on the course.